Big show this week, boys. We've got team reveals, lads. How are we? How are we feeling about our teams?
Yeah, look, this one for me, boys, obviously I've got Harry Grant there in that bench spot because he won't play round one, and he's obviously the guy that I've penciled in to be my premium keeper hooker for the entire season. So as a result of that, Chrissy Randall will get the start in round one. I don't think he was terrible on the weekend, and more reports he's going to play some pretty decent minutes. So, yeah, he's probably 1,000% ownership, Chris Randall, and there might be some guys looking at other blokes. King, I'm sure you're probably looking away from Grant to start the season, but that's how I'm starting the hooking position for round one at this point in time, a couple of weeks out from start.
Hey, look, yeah. I mean, you can't really begrudge anyone doing it. He was sort of the form hooker last year. A lot of potential there. Randall's going to acquit himself well. It's just, you're probably not going to have a genuine maybe third or fourth reserve on the bench for that extra sort of 4 players of what points you get. So that's probably where it's just going to affect it. But what are you going to give up, 10 or 15 points maybe? So yeah, mate, like it. He'll be back round 2. And no doubt him and the Storm will just continue on from where they were last year and be top 4 and a lot of attacking points from Harry. Mate, look, similar to you, I've got Randall in there, obviously. He looks the value. He looks the best that a lot of people know of. I've gone with Cookie, mate. I just think it bounced back here. Too quickly did he rise to where he became that, very hard to sort of hold that. I'm thinking we maybe had a second or a third year season there where he just sort of lulled a bit. I reckon he can bounce back huge this year. Obviously no A-Ray, that's well talked about, but does that just put more emphasis on him and his sort of attacking abilities and what they need from him in the team? So I think that combination with Cam Murray's proved great. On the left-hand side, he's starting to combine better with Cody Walker these years as well. Mate, he's just dangerous everywhere, and I don't think you can sleep on him. I just really don't. I think there's a good chance there. Him and Harry Grant are going toe-to-toe at the end of the year with averages for hookers. Yeah,
I don't mind it. Look, I think their start to the season's a bit rough. They start with Brisbane, then they play Melbourne, the Chooks, Penrith. That'll be one of the main reasons I'd be a little bit off him, King. But apart from that, that'll be the only bad thing I'd probably say about him. Totally agree about A-Ray. I think he's going to have to steer him around a bit more and be a bit more active out of dummy half. And yeah, obviously with young Ilias there, or it should be probably Ilias at half, or Tafe, I think they're just going to need him to be, that senior player that has his hands on the ball and is a bit more of a presence in their attacking plays and that sort of thing. So I don't mind it, mate. I think I don't know if he's a pot, I don't know where his ownership is at, but he's 70k cheaper than Harry Grant, and Brisbane first up, it could be a good crack at the start. So we got me in the front row now. This is probably one of the areas I've tinkered with in the last week or so, especially since the trials on the weekend, trying to fit Turbo in, King. But obviously I'm a big fan of Payne Haas. I know he's a pretty high price. He's essentially the most expensive front rower in the comp if you exclude IPAP. But I'm a big fan of Payne. Again, when I'm picking this team, I'm just thinking who are the guys that are keepers till the end, essentially, and I think Payne Haas is one of them, so why not start with him? At one point in time, I had TPJ in that second starting front row spot, but in order to fit someone like Tommy Turbo in, someone's got to go. And I think that front row, that second starting front row spot, at the end of the day, if you're going to try and save some money, I think it's in the relative. But, these could be anything. I've got, obviously, Ethan Bullmore there. Schuster's going to miss the start of the season. Might be some guys that were originally going to start off the bench and are now going to come into the starting side. Maybe Bullmore gets a bit of time. I'm not sure. Again, these positions, probably these 3 forward front row positions, are ones that are probably going to be subject to change most out of Teamless Tuesday. Bullmore could be anything. 280k. He's just a bit of a hole filler at the moment. Dual front row, second row. Georgie Burgess, all reports he's looking trim. He's recovered well from the hip surgery that he's had. I think at 247k, as I said, until he's seen on team list, signed on team list, we'll determine whether he's there or not. But I think he's very underpriced for what he could pump out. He could average 50 for the season. And mate, one of your boys, I don't even know if he's a chance to get a start, but I think it's just the old Supercoach nostalgia. This guy's been elite of the past. So if he gets off the bench and plays 30 minutes, maybe at 200k, there's something there. But, it was just a cheapy hole filler. I don't know if he'll be there, but maybe if he makes a spot in at 17. He didn't look too bad in the All-Stars, but he's not going to be playing too many minutes, so there's probably not much doing. But, just a bit of gap fillers at the moment. I'm not too concerned.
off the bench, I think maybe he gets 30, 35 minutes max. He's probably good for a point a minute. You know what I mean? Like with how old he is now, the legs, everything like that. But yeah, put it this way. In all the team pickers and everything else, mate, he's found his way into one or two of mine as well before he's gone out again. But yeah, I can feel that.
I think as well, obviously with these ones, this is where I'm trying to make a bit of money quite clearly. So it's probably going to be a few cheaper guys that might mean 2 trades to another more premium front rower, a little bit down in the season as well. I don't want to stash too much money in that second front row spot, obviously, if I don't have a guy that I don't think is going to be a keeper. So I know there's a couple other guys out in that 300, 400k mark. Like you're looking at your Jairos, your Toika Manus, but I don't know. I just feel like this might be a bit of value in this 200k range if they're there on Teamless Tuesday. So,
yeah, fair enough, mate. I've gone with 3 blokes who I think have got potential to be 600k plus players. AFB, I think we know what a wrecking ball he is. He can get on those Supercoach runs. I think he can do it from the start as well. I think he looks absolutely fit in the trial, looks fantastic. Mate, Paulie Vaughan, look, I spoke about it last week. He's my gun for the year. I really think he steps back up as a premium front rower. I think with the doggies there, I think we can see the 75-80 average that we saw, in partial of a season, a couple of seasons ago when he first went to the Dragons. So I think that can happen again. Mate, Junior Paulo, look, I think a lot of people had him last year. Starting the season, I think he was something similar, maybe early 400k. And everyone wanted to jump on, and he just really sort of let everyone down last year because he had that good year in 2020, and I think he just sort of let everyone down a little bit last year. And mate, like you said, Georgie Burgess at price, mate, he prices himself into every team. Along with Randall, mate, he is should be the number 1 owned player, I think, in Supercoach.
Yeah, and look, it's quite interesting, King. At this point in time, we've got a little bit of different approach to those front row positions. Obviously, mate, I've gone one of the heavies, and essentially AFB is one of those, about 100k cheaper than Haas. But you've also gone a little heavier in that second starting front row spot, and then one of your benches, spots with JP there, is obviously a bit heavier. What's the plan? Are you thinking they're good pods to start the season? Are you hoping these guys, a couple of them might be keepers? What's the thought process there?
My thought process is basically a little bit to do with the start of the season, for one. For 2, the change in the rules back to being a little bit slower out of their front end. So, maybe a few more tackles that these guys make up the middle, maybe a few more hit-ups that they get from standing starts and things like that. So, for starters, it's that. I think we will see a swing back away from the attacking football. Again, not by much, but maybe a few points, which a few points on average can mean a lot over a season. So, mate, that's the idea there. It really hasn't made me have to sacrifice anywhere else. We can go spoiler alert. I don't have turbo, so I can sort of afford to create a team that looks like this because I haven't committed so much money elsewhere.
A good point. That's also a very valid point. And if you were to have a change of heart, though, this is probably one of the spots you hit where you make a bit of cash quickly if you want to, frantically get turbo in.
Yeah.
No, I like it. It's a very solid front. Still wondering how I fit a couple of these blokes in with bloody turbo in there, King. Must have let Thomas see I needed a bit of help, eh? Look.
It's not a fucking Supercoach team without Burbo, is it? But
it's not. And look,
I haven't got him in there this year.
Look, the first thing I'll say about this is obviously that bench is looking pretty haggis. But the second thing I'll say is the context is important. And I know we don't want any spoiler alerts, but I think the money that I'm looking to be making is going to be in that centre wing spot. And that also adds a bit of context as to why I'm going to start with Aiken in that second row position at this point in time. But yeah, David Fafita, I can't go past him. I know he's expensive, but there's no back rower, at least, with the ceiling of this bloke, and there's no one worse apart from probably Turbo to not own. Yeah. There's this talk he might come off the bench and this and that or whatever, but I just think the kid's a freak. He's only going to get better, bigger, stronger, faster, fitter. I can't not do it. I didn't start with him last season after I was going to at 500k. I can't do it again this year because he's just, the ceiling's
too good
in another universe. Matto, I just feel like there's a bit of value with Matto. I know he's got the head injury issues and that sort of thing, but there's a heap of players in the same boat that guys are talking about. 570k, I like it. Again, very consistent, probably going to push 70, 80 most weeks, points that is. And if he crosses that line for a pie or something like that, he's easy turning up. So 570k, he's been a bit of a no-brainer for me. I haven't really thought about taking Matto out of my team at any point. There's been a few back rollers that have come and gone, but he's one that hasn't. And yeah, obviously Ewan Aitken, a bit funny to maybe see him starting in that second row spot. And I think Big Ted did say when he was on a couple of weeks ago that he had him in the starting back row, which at the time I thought, oh, you know, that's interesting. But as I said, I think where I'm trying to make my money in the centre wings, as soon as I have the ability to sort of chop one of those centre wings out after they make a bit of coin, Aitken goes straight down in there, and I'm looking to upgrade to another premium second row forward. So hence nice. The Aitken there. Look, Sapai Moroa, Ben Trebojevic, Jack Hovarth, I don't expect any of them to get big minutes, if any at all, and I also don't expect any of them to make big money. But I don't know, just with the rest of the makeup of my team, I'm happy with where I'm at. Sapai maybe, but who knows? Benny Trebojevic, who knows? Jack, not expecting anything. But you also, you know, picking guys like Fafita and Harry Grant and Turbo, there's got to be some bottom dollar guys in there, and Jack's one of them.
Fafita and Crichton, I wasn't impressed with Curran in the All-Stars. I wasn't impressed with him in the trial. I've got to give him the sack for now, Joshy Curran. He's gone for now. I've subbed in Olakau'atu, the
Manly back rower.
I've been absolutely bamboozled by the stats, by the brilliant videos and content that some of our other creators bringing through, because this bloke, the numbers just add up to say put him in your team.
Interesting, King. What's he priced at?
512.
512. Yeah.
Look, he's got a bit of Tino about him. He's got a bit of, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know, King. The reason why I'm off him is he doesn't have the ceiling, and he also doesn't have the base. He's not making 50 points, 60 points in runs and tackles as a back rower, but he does have that appeal in obviously being in that Manly side, and any, you know, me or you could play on the back row for Manly, I reckon, with Tommy Turbo running around. So that said, whilst it sometimes doesn't translate to Supercoach scores, he's one of my favourite players to watch. Every time he gets the ball, you know, he looks dangerous and that sort of thing. So I don't mind it. It's just I haven't seen the ceiling from him yet. So he's awkwardly priced. You reckon you end up keeping him till the start of the season, or you fucking surely you don't?
It's fucking 2 weeks away. What the fuck are you talking about?
You've already changed it, I suppose. He wasn't even on this list.
Yeah, probably right.
Look, I think before I had Turbo in, and obviously this is with Cleary not being fit for round one under that assumption, I've had a fairly good look at that halfback position, and I really don't know what to do. I think I badmouthed Toby Sexton at about 400k or whatever it is. So on principle and on morale, I think I went SJ, but I think I'm leaning towards possibly Sexton, especially if he's goal kicking and SJ isn't. But I've got SJ in there at the moment. I don't know, King. You can't start with all of them. I'm going to start with Harry Grant. I'm going to start with Turbo, and I'm going to start with Dave Fafita. I thought, where do I have the most potential to make the money to get one of the other guys that I don't have, like a Cleary in? And I think that someone like Sean Johnson and Jackson Hastings and Lachlan Ilias, a couple of those guys, a combination of a couple of those guys, have the ability to make me the money to get me to Cleary. And I also don't think Cleary can maintain that $1 million price tag, essentially. I don't think he has that consistent ceiling. He definitely can consistently score that 80 to 100 sort of score. But you won't regularly see him score 120, 130 plus. So I'm banking on an SJ. It could turn into a Sexton, even though I think I called him a trap a couple of weeks ago. Hastings, Ilias, and I think I've got someone else in that other 5'8" position. I'm looking at a couple of those guys as my money makers to get me to Cleary, and I think they're the best. They're the best chance I have, I think, in some of those positions to get me to him. And obviously, playing Supercoach for a few years, always have a soft spot for SJ, which could be to my detriment. But, you know, if he was goal kicking, I think he's definitely a lock. But the mail is he won't goal kick. So that's a shame. But anyway, that's what I'm running with at this point.
No, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Yeah, look, I like it, mate. Obviously, as you say, whether it's the nostalgia, you know, picking SJ, we know what he's capable of. And mate, back home, maybe it just brings out the best in him, you know, a good off-season off that ankle and off those knees, and, you know, maybe he just comes back a little bit fresher. You know, he's always got good running forwards off him over there you know, and he's proven that he can dominate any right side attack, you know. It's yeah, mate, I don't not like it. Like you say, if he was goal kicking, he'd almost be a lock in most teams. So yeah. DCE. Yes. You know what pisses me off about this cunt? Is
it's after
every
9 o'clock.
fucking season I never have the cunt, and he seems to score well. And then there was one year about 2 or 3 years ago where I picked him in both my drafts, and he was a busted cunt. He went fucking terrible, and I may as well have just picked fucking Ashley Taylor or something. I don't know, like, it was just, he just annoys me because whenever I'm on him, he never performs, and then when I'm not on him, he's good. So, mate, I'm going him from the start of the year this year. Manly seem to have an okay run early. Do they? No, they got a tough run early, don't they?
Tough run. Brisbane, then at top 3 of the top 4 teams, I think.
Yeah, that was good. Good expert commentary there, ladies and gentlemen. All right, well, let's use another one where, you know, under intense pressure, diamonds are created, and the first 3 out of 4 rounds they're playing the top teams, and Cherry Evans will shine like a bloody diamond and score 100 points each game.
I must admit, I reckon he's the biggest flat track bully in the comp. I don't think there's a player that goes, not missing, probably not missing is the right word, but I don't think there's a bloke that when you need him to stand up in a game, there's not a bloke that doesn't do it as often as Cherry. But when they're up by 20 or up by 30, he'll chime in and put another 20 or 30 on them, no worries.
Yep.
Look, it'll be interesting, King. Obviously, you got that Manly combination there with Alaka Matanahonu, whatever his name is, Omale Halakatatu. I don't know how to say his name, but, you know, he's running out on that edge of DCEs as well. I'm surprised you don't have Turbo if you got these two blokes, that's for sure.
Oh, mate, like you say, you can't fucking fit in every game.
True, it's true.
Jesus.
Big price and a rough draw. You'll find out a lot about whether you want to keep him by round 3. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, tell me about it. But I guarantee you he drops less than Turbo does.
Ooh, guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Interesting. I'm going to leave that one alone. I'll let someone else pick that one up. Lockie Ilias, you know, all reports are, well, I have read that Ben Hornby and the coaching staff at South Sydney has said Ilias will get that first opportunity at the 7. Taff is more of a fullback 5'8" running, you know, not a game manager type player. So Ilias will get the first nod and he'll get the first crack. I think he also goal kicks, so I think Latrell's match ban as well, controversially, well, not controversially, but he'll now be available for selection for round 2 because they've retrospectively included the Indigenous All-Stars game in his suspension, so Latrell will be back round 2. Yeah, I'm a fan. I like Ilias. He got a debut last year. He's got some. He's an Australian schoolboy rugby player, I believe. So, you know, big raps on him, and looking forward to see how he goes. And probably the same for Monet. I think watching him again last year, I think he didn't do too badly in the trial over the weekend as well. Just a live wire at 280k, 300k. I think he makes a bit of money. At some point, I don't know, it might not be straight away, but he's cheap enough, and I like watching him. Yeah. So, King, what do you got at 5'8"?
Mate, I've got Jacko Hastings and Ilias. Yeah, I need. I was going Taff in the center, in the 5'8" halves position because I think you're right that Ilias will sort of, you know, offers that more stable play. But I think that Taff, with his experience last year, just might be that bit more beneficial. So I'm concerned that for Ilias, if he doesn't perform, that when Latrell does come back, which I was hoping would be 2 rounds in, not 1, but then maybe Tough would have gone to sort of that halfback role, and maybe it was Ilias that would have sort of got dropped. But anyway, we'll see. It's a bit hard to get dropped after 1 game, so maybe that theory goes out the window. But yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have these boys in their side, whether it's at halfback, whether it's at 5'8". Obviously, the duality helps a lot as well, which is nice for us.
Yeah, the duality definitely helps, but it's all about the money, isn't it? Let's face it, if it wasn't week 1 and we had a salary cap that was stopping us, probably none of those blokes are in there, you know. So come round 6, 7 or 8, maybe these guys, if they don't blow up, they'll be gone anyway. But yeah.
Well, the question I had about Hastings is you've obviously got Brooks there, King, and Dewey, who is a noted 5'8", but does play 5'8" quite well. He'll miss probably the fair first half of the season anyway, but what happens with Hastings once Dewey comes back? Does Dewey go to centre? They got Laurie at fullback, so Dewey doesn't go back there. But it probably doesn't matter at that point. He's probably made enough money, hopefully, that you might just want to flick him anyway. But
I think that's the point with Hastings, mate, is we basically get to find out long enough before Dewey does come back if he's worth having. You know what I mean? Like, all right, if over the first 6 weeks he jumps to 500k, great. Then you down him and you use the money elsewhere. If he stays where he is and just averages 40 and his price doesn't really change, well, then again, you just sort of think, fuck it, I'll drop him to enough and, you know, use the money elsewhere. I can't imagine with the position he's going to be and the kind of player he is. You know, he's a tougher kind of half. I think he at least averages 40, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's any danger there that the 350 drops. So,
yeah,
either way,
and
I think he's an easy player to get out of.
A few of the boys in the chat are saying it's not really a problem until Dewey comes back, so you don't really need to worry about it. It might be, mate, you know,
agreed, yeah,
sense of fear in people that isn't required. Oh, is this what I sent you? All right, look, this is the position this season that I think is going to be really crucial. Look, first of all, I'm locking Katoni Staggs. Big fan. I think he's got the ceiling. He's a powerhouse. One-on-one, he's one of the toughest players, I think. Tackling the comp, plenty of tackle busts. I see tries. Unfortunately, he probably loses the goal kicking, I'd imagine, to A-Ray, which is a bit of a shame, but I like Katoni. Chuck him in. That's fine. These other positions, these other 3 positions, and I think at some point I bring Aitken down. I like Aitken, provided he's starting on that edge for the Warriors, but this is the area I think where the money's to be made, King, and it probably is most seasons. It's nothing new. But yeah, there's a lot of guys this season, and there's particularly a number of guys that are around that 300 to 400k mark, King, that are going to be interesting to see Team List Tuesday. But Beau Fermor's one of them. He's at 380k. The mail is he might get a start on the edge for the Titans, and with the duality of the second row centre wing, to be able to pick a guy that might play some pretty decent minutes on the edge in the centre wing is quite nice. And he finds the odd attacking start fairly regularly as well, makes the odd line break and that sort of thing. So I've got Fema there. I don't think I have Kurt Mann. I can't remember what I said, Bogan. You've got Kurt Mann. There's a couple other guys as well around that price. But it's all right. That's fine. That's all good. The other one there, Selwyn Cobbo, that was a recent change, obviously, with the news. Tessie Newell missed probably, I think, the first month or so of footy with a hamstring injury. It's perspective that Selwyn's going to be named at fullback. I wasn't touching Selwyn if he was going to be named at centre. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's like a little GI mould. I think he'd be great in the next couple of years, but I don't think the base or in that Brisbane side, the attack probably won't be there this season at least for it to warrant picking him. But at fullback, it's probably a different prospect. So if he doesn't get named at fullback, I'll probably stay away from him unless he's off the wing. Targo's there as well, obviously pretty well noted. Most people are on Targo. Looks like he might shore up. That's one of those centre spots for Penrith, which would be nice at 287k, and obviously got that duality between the second row and the centre wing, which is nice. And then, yeah, the bench, you got Will Penasini. I can't remember what I sent you, Bogan. Sawali as well. So, you know, again, perspective as to whether Sawali actually gets that spot. If he doesn't get the spot, he won't be there. Penasini, I believe he should, Benny, please confirm, get that start, one of those starting centre spots for the Eels. Big fan of him. He's got as big as wraps on him, if not bigger than Sawali. So whatever you heard about Sawali is The same, if not more, for Penasini. So if he's starting, I think he's got to be one of your centre wingers, whether you start him or he's on your bench. There's money to be made out of Penasini. And Alamotti, again, as I said, I touched on, I got some pretty high-priced guys there in Grant for Feeder and Turbo. You're going to have some cheapy, maybe nuffs or whatever you want to call them. Alamotti's got big raps on him. Phil Gould elevated him into the first grade squad pretty quickly. He's only very young. I think he's only 18 years old. He probably doesn't end up with a start, but it was just a gap filler, bottom dollar cheapie at the time. These are the positions for me, King, that will change the most. And these are the ones I'm trying to get right. Like I said, you've got your Kurt Manns. You've got your, someone like that Lukey from the Cowboys, who I'm not sold on. Like, I could bring Aitken down and bring him on. But there's a couple of guys there that are really important this season that are priced in that 300 to 400k sort of mark. And I think that's going to be the difference to a lot of people's season, is getting those guys like FEMA and Mann and whoever it is else right. So that's what we've got at the moment. Don't mind it. And
mate, on to my centre wings. Mate, similar to you, Coach, Tony Staggs and Bo Firma. Mate, one of the changes here is actually I've dropped Will Penasini.
You idiot.
Yeah. I brought Isaac Targo in, mate. I just thought he was really good on the weekend. Very, very much similar kind of role they're going to play in that right centre for their team. So we'll just see who's who. But I may find a way for him back in. I've got blokes like Tautau Moga on the bench and stuff like that. So I've got about 70 or 80k in the kitty still, so I can send that onwards if I need to and bring him back in. But we'll see.
I reckon, buddy, if Swally doesn't get picked and JP does, Jordan Pereira, there's nearly a straight spot there. You're a big fan of Pereira, and he's really Supercoach friendly sort of bloke as well.
Huge fan. I've been shouting his praises for a long, long time, and again, mate, like a lot, there's a few chats there with the podcaster boys where I may have overstepped with what I thought he sort of averaged and such. But the thing is, he might not be that 600k player. He might not average 20 or 25 runs, but he will average 15. He will get to 450 or 500k at some stage this season if he starts. He's a very, very good cash grab I see at the start of the season. I think this bloke will probably, again, if he starts, will probably jump up more than any other back in the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. So, all right, on to Reggie's. We've got Suali, Tautau Moga, and Terrell Kalo. I want to see this guy play. Well, look, he was dual, he was bottom dollar, he had a cool name. I actually thought I was picking him because he'd be no chance to play. But apparently he's in the top 24 squad and he's playing this weekend. And, he's probably next in line if anyone in the back line goes down injured. So,
King, any mail on Moga? Is he actually a sniff at any time, or he's just sort of 200k, whatever?
Mate, look, it was more probably one of those place filler picks to begin with. Not that I'm an overall fan of what he's done previously, but he's got to go down as one of the most unfulfilled potentials we've seen in the game, surely.
100%.
Like the
Suwali-esque raps on him.
Mate, he did, and just injury after injury. How many knees did he do? Mate, honestly, like, this guy could have been a 550, 600k centre winger that didn't kick goals and didn't score many tries. Just brutal tackle busts, line breaks, things like that. So, yeah, mate, very disappointed. I'm hoping that means that maybe there's a bit of luck involved with him this year, mate, and yeah, just a random pick out of the blue.
Nah, fair call. A few gap fillers at this point. Can't be too critical. Who the fuck is Terrell Colour? Anyway, great name. If you've got any doubts about what Tom Trbojevic is capable of or concerned about his prices, all I'm going to say is jump onto your little fucking Supercoach app or your NRL Supercoach stats. Shout out to the boys there, do a fantastic job. And just go and have a look at Tommy Turbo's scores from 2021. Now, I know there's plenty of people out there that will say that scores might regress because there's changes in the rules and it slows down a bit and this and that and whatever, but I don't really care. I think Tommy Turbo if he's at under 10%, I don't even know what his ownership is now. I think it would have escalated a bit since that trial, but he's a set and forget captain. He can lose me 500k. It doesn't matter. There is no player in the game with the more involved in plays. There is not a guy. You know, I used to have a man crush on Jake, but in the last couple of years, it's probably turned into Tom. Bring it on. If you don't have Turbo, I don't care about the draw. The bloke's a Dally M winner. He's going to win it again in 2022.
All right.
You heard it here first.
All right,
Shut the gate. It's all over.
I'm going to bring up Kings, and because he has.
Has he got Mbai still there or what?
But for about 100 grand more, you could have, for 100 grand more than Tommy Turbo on his own, you could have this.
Now, hang on. Let's just talk about Tommy for a sec. Let's just talk about Tommy. Just, yeah. Look, it is, mate. Look, the way I see it is the only flaw in not having him is the advantage of being able to captain him. Because the way I see it is that he's going to drop in cash. He will drop in cash. There is not a chance in hell with the draw that they've got. Like, don't get me wrong, if they had Minnow, if they had 5 minnows to start the season, he could do it. He could average 150 to start the season. But he can't in the first 4 rounds with the draw that they've got. He can't. He can average between 100 and 110. And that means through 4 rounds, through 5 rounds, he will drop to an accessible price. Right now at 1.2, he's not. And if you do start with him, the thing is, right, if you're right, you're absolutely right, and no one ever gets near him, because it then takes another 5 weeks for him to drop if he averages over the first 5 weeks. And by that time, you guys have captained him and you're gone. Like if you're right about Turbo, the rest of the competition has no fucking chance whatsoever.
And I'll tell you why I'm right about Turbo is you can go back in the years, go back to 2019, 2020, 2017, 2016. I don't really give a fuck what year you go back to, maybe until he debuted, but the guy has a ceiling. He scores 130, he scores 150, not as consistently as last season, obviously, and last season was a massive, massive blimp on the radar. I just think he is daylight ahead of the next best player in the competition, and Supercoach-wise, it's even more so than that. I know the draw. I know what you're saying about the draw.
Season, he hasn't had any dominance over Tedesco, right? He hasn't.
From what perspective?
From a perspective as averages of basically who we choose to pick. It was always a coin flip, wasn't it? Like it was never.
Yeah, they were the same. They were thought about the same cloth.
So
look back at our team reveal a couple of years ago. King, we had them both in there. Always.
And look. Maybe it's the right season to judge off because he'd come back from 2 fucking hamstring injuries. I don't know, but I think it isn't the fact, like, you can then afford Turbo, right? Let's say you've got an extra 400k, he drops down to 900. Let's say it's that, right? That extra 400k elsewhere in your team is gonna earn you points. You know, it's gonna earn you points in the long run where your team has just got more money to spend on better players. You know, like. I think, again, if he averages 100 and goes down, well, you can only really get outscored by maybe 60 to 80 points over 3 to 4 rounds, right?
What I'll say, King, is say he drops 250k or 300k, whatever, 400k, and he drops to 900k, whatever the fuck it is. Yeah. You've spent 400k by going your Paps and your Teddies elsewhere. How are you getting him in? Are you going to trade Teddy? Are you going to trade Pap? Do you think they maintain their price, or if not, make money so that they at least hold enough coin so you can spend your extra 300k that you're holding in the bank, or fuck knows where you're getting that from? How the fuck are you getting him in after he starts playing the draw, whoever the fuck it is in round 4 when they draw actually round 5 when their draw improves? I think you're full of shit.
300k out of Pereira, and then come round 5. Swapping, and one of these donkeys is fucking going to go, whoever's in the worst form.
I tell you what, your chase for Classic will be over by round 3 if you don't have Turbo. They play the Dogs, I don't care, they play Penrith, I don't care about the Planet. Yeah, I've got him. And you'll have him by round 1 as well, don't worry about it, okay?
Nah.
And can we just go back and my little other bench spot is Pap. The rumour is he might not be fit for round 1 or he might or whatever. If he's not,
Well,
we'll cross that bridge.
Actually,
But I've got 50k in the bank. I've got 50k in the bank, and I could bring in Teddy as well if I wanted to. So, King, I'll tell you one thing though. The one thing I love is this sort of thing. I think this season especially, this is going to be the difference. Is whether you started with him or whether you didn't.
This is it. All right, everyone says after fucking 5 weeks or when you put up your team in Facebook, nah, just quit and delete the app. Whoever fucks up, you fucking delete the app. Like if the 12% that take Turbo and he averages 140 over the first 5 rounds, the other 88% of people can just fuck off and stop playing because you're just no chance.
I just thought, King, part of my thought process with it is if I don't have him, or even if I did have him, who else am I going to chuck the captaincy on? I know there's Teddy has Newcastle first up, and there's a couple guys around there, but there's just no one capable of what he is capable of. And you're paying for your captain and that sort of thing, and he can drop 500k. It doesn't matter. I just think the points he's capable of, I can't not have him.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me. I won't say any more about it. Talk to me in the meantime about Tedesco, King. What are you thinking with Teddy?
Mate, he had a lot on his plate last year, right? He had a lot on his plate. The Roosters were just decimated by injuries, and this bloke, I think he put too much pressure on himself last season. I think he put too much pressure on him that he was the one who had to step up and do everything. And I think we need to find a little bit more. Trent Robinson needs to find a little bit more authority, or initiative from his other players to do that, because this is the bloke that brings the X factor, not the consistency. This is the bloke who brings you 4 amazing plays a game instead of 12 solid ones. He needs to be given that kind of, unpredictability. We need to see him a little bit less than what we do, because he starts to be able to be read. He gets a little bit too tired. I think we go back to the coin flip days this year. I think we go back to where the difference between Teddy and Turbo isn't as great as it was last year.
Look, go and have a look again, as I said about Turbo. Look at 2021 Teddy stats. They're not bad. He had 4 tons in there and some big tons. He had a 182 at the back end of the year. He started the year with 162. There's a 130, 140 in there. He's more than capable. He's a gun. I guess my thing with it is we've seen the same from Pap goal kicks. It's hard. You can't obviously have Turbo, Pappy and Teddy. It's a combination of the two. So there's going to be some weeks where it doesn't work out for you. It's inevitable, unless you own Turbo. Look, I hear the thing about, Kiri's back. It frees up Teddy. Kiri might not be fit for round 1 apparently as well, so that's an interesting part of that. But how old is Tedesco now? I mean, he runs so many meters. He's involved in everything. He plays Origin. He doesn't miss many games. At some point, I don't like to say. I mean, he's nearly 30. He's 29 years old, so he's not. He doesn't have those young legs anymore. He's been pretty injury free for the last couple of seasons, that sort of thing. But at some point, there's a passing of the torch, and I don't know if it's this season. I'm not suggesting you don't pick Teddy, and the same with Paps. Like as I said, you can't have all these guys. Teddy and Paps are amazing if you don't have Turbo, and they are capable of those big ceilings, but they've got 50s and 60s in them. Turbo, he does as well, but he can have that by 10 minutes in sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time he scores very quickly. If Manly are doing something, he's involved very early and has some good scores very quickly. Well, half time it's like 80 to 100,
Whenever they go on those runs, don't they? He's the one involved, He's the one who's there to do it. Whereas not so much these other two. They can come from Munster. They can come from the players in the Roosters.
Your Manus and your Olams and your whoever it is. There's other options. But with that Manly side,
it's always
it's 99% eyes on Turbo. So
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's about it, mate.
We're done.